podcast is sponsored by Renewal by Andersen of Central Pennsylvania. You can now get $400 off every window and $800 off every entry and patio door from now until the end of August. That's $0 down, 0 payments, and 0% interest for a year and a half. Call 717-727-7558 or visit rbacentralpa.com/deals to get more information. Remember, deal ends August 31st. A state lawmaker wants to protect child influencers from exploitation. Meanwhile, this man found out the hard way that, legally, finders keepers just doesn't stand. Almost 1 in 5 flights were delayed this year at Pennsylvania's main airports. Plus, these towns are picturesque. I'm Claudia Dimuro, and you're listening to Today in a PA. State Representative Torrin Ecker wants to make sure child influencers on social media aren't exploited, reports Fox 43. That's why Ecker has proposed a change to Pennsylvania's child labor law that would regulate both child influencers and celebrities on platforms like Instagram. In following suit of Illinois, the first state to impose such regulation, Ecker's bill would make sure that child influencers, specifically those younger than 16, can file lawsuits against their parents or legal guardians if the money being made from their content isn't being set aside for them. The bill would also put steps in place to prevent kids from working long hours. The status of Ecker's proposal remains pending. It was about a year ago when Lauren Sandstrom of Parkersburg in Lancaster County stumbled upon a wad of $3,000 cash in a Weis supermarket, reports Lancaster Online. Sandstrom, now 80, kept the money, although he's learned the hard way that, legally, the adage of finders, keepers, losers, weepers just doesn't stand. There's a section of Pennsylvania's Crimes Code, Section 3924, that basically dictates how anyone that takes control of property that they know was lost, misplaced, or delivered to them as a mistake is essentially guilty of theft. So when Weis security footage caught Sandstrom taking the money after the man who dropped it reported it missing, police eventually found him after running his license plate number and charged him with lost mislaid theft after he admitted he didn't notify anyone about the cash. This case isn't technically resolved yet, so some of its details remain undisclosed, although Sandstrom did have to pay over $1,000, presumably in fines, and do 20 hours of community service. Delays and cancellations continue to plague flyers everywhere, states PennLive. And as they are a gambling website, PennStakes.com decided to see which U.S. airports have the highest odds of flight delays for this year so far, based on data from the Federal Bureau of Transportation Statistics. At Pennsylvania's main airports, on average, almost 1 in 5 flights have been delayed in 2023. The biggest perpetrator in this regard was Arnold Palmer Regional Airport in Latrobe, which has delayed about 33% of all its flights. Travel site North Carolina Travel Guides recently published an article titled 120 Most Picturesque Towns in America, begins PennLive. And there were a total of 5 spots in Pennsylvania that made the list: Easton, Doylestown, Lidditz, Gettysburg, and Ambler. Of them all, Easton ranked the highest in the number 12 spot, with North Carolina Travel Guides noting its, quote, charming historic downtown, beautifully detailed architecture, and historic landmarks. The small town that topped the list was Fredericksburg, Texas. Happy Friday! To stay up to date over the weekend, pay a visit to PennLive.com. And please remember to rate this podcast and to share it around wherever you see fit. Thanks ahead of time, and as always, thanks for sticking with us. I'm Claudia Dimuro, and I'll talk to you next week for more Today in a PA. This podcast is sponsored by Renewal by Andersen of Central Pennsylvania. You can now get $400 off every window and $800 off every entry and patio door from now until the end of August. That's $0 down, 0 payments, and 0% interest for a year and a half. Call 717-727-7558 or visit rbacentralpa.com/deals to get more information. Remember, deal ends August 31st.